Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report. And today's range report is on another awesome high-end custom AR-15 from a company called NEMO Arms. And I know when I review some of these AR-15s, especially the high-end ones, that are all kind of proprietary. I don't mean proprietary in that their parts won't fit on other guns, but it's all their in-house branding. It's all their own stuff. It all kind of runs together. After all, the AR-15 is kind of the Legos for adults, as they say. Well, actually, I like real Legos too, but these are the Legos for adults because all these parts can be interchanged to your heart's desire to design a rifle that fits your needs and desires. And when you kind of review these, as I said, they kind of run together. You're like, wow, it's another high-end AR-15. So I don't think I'm really jaded when it comes to that. It's just one of those things that when I get a chance to shoot one of these, I really do have high expectations because, well, if you're spending this type of money on an AR-15, well, I expect that. So I'm looking forward to seeing how I feel about this particular model. And as I said, this is made by NEMO Arms, and I believe the model that is on the receiver is the Battle Light 1.0. We're going to talk a little bit about NEMO Arms and the things that I like and don't like about this rifle, but as always, I want to thank the people that make these videos possible. First and foremost is the owner of this amazing rifle who lent it to me and the channel for review. His name is DD. Thank you so much again. I am honored that you let me shoot and review your fine firearms. I also want to thank my Patreons because through their monthly donations and support, they help keep the lights on around here. And if you guys want to be a Patreon, you can join for as little as $1 a month and see all of these videos early before anybody else, and that link is in the description below. And as always, I want to thank my primary sponsor who makes all these range reports possible because he provides all of the ammunition, my good friend Mark from Brownworks. And normally I tell you that if you like guns that can take wood panel grips, well, Brownworks is the company for you. And usually I'm reviewing a gun that can take those wood panel grips. But of course I'm reviewing an AR-15 today, and you're thinking to yourself, he ain't gonna make anything for AR-15s. Well, guess what? Beyond making some of the best wood panel grips for a wide variety of firearms out of a wide variety of exotic woods and materials, and putting on custom logos and engravings, Mark at Brownworks offers a number of services for your modern sporting rifle. He has laser engraving for magazines, P-mags, and AK-47 mags, as well as custom grip panels for your rails and wood grips for, yes, the AR-15. Man, what grip company offers that? You guys know that a lot of grip companies just have run-of-the-mill grips that are one of many. Well, every grip that is made by Brownworks is one-off. They are custom made to your specifications for your guns with those custom logos, those custom engravings. Every grip is unique. Every grip is special, and that's what makes Brownworks special. So I'm going to put a link in the comment section below. Go over there, check out his website, see what Mark has to offer, and remember to contact him if you don't find what you're looking for, because Mark is busy making custom grips for his customers and not always updating his website. And I guarantee you he can hook you up with the grips that you're looking for. So please contact Mark, check out his website, and when you do, tell him the Texas Gun Vault sent you. Alright, so as I said, we're going to talk a little bit about NEMO Arms, the manufacturer of this awesome rifle. I honestly had not heard of them before just a couple of years ago, and it's mainly because they made an AR-15 chambered and 300 Winchester Magnum. I had never even heard of an AR-15 chambered in those Magnum cartridges, and that's what I think they kind of cut their teeth on. Very innovative and very different. However, they have gotten into the more traditional calibers, 308 and of course 5.56, and that's what this is chambered in. Now, NEMO Arms stands for New Evolution Military Ordnance. So the name isn't just something that they came up with. They're like, hey, this is what we want to call the company, and it turned out it was a pretty cool acronym. And as mentioned, this is the Battle Light 1.0. That is what this receiver is. So let's take a look at this thing really fast. It is a very attractive rifle. Lots of milling on that upper and lower receiver, so I'm assuming those are billet. It's their own handguard, lots of M-LOK slots on that. Yeah, look at all that. That is not your typical mil-spec upper and lower receiver that you normally find on other rifles. Yeah, it looks very nice, and I even love the color. You guys know I'm a huge fan of flat dark earth. I really think this color is more bronze than flat dark earth, but it looks absolutely fantastic. So let's talk about the things that I like and don't like about this particular gun. And I always want to start with the positive things first. Now, handling it here on the workbench, it is very obvious that NEMO Arms takes a lot of pride in building their rifles. I mean, the detail that goes into this gun, from the markings on all of the small parts to the fact that it looks like most of their parts are made in-house. They're unique to this rifle. And yes, they would fit on other rifles, but they take the time to brand everything. The upper and lower receivers, as I showed you, have special cutouts in them. All that stuff takes time. It takes precision milling. And a lot of other companies are just going to take a mil-spec upper and lower and throw their own parts on it. It saves time. Well, that's not what NEMO does. Everything seems to be put together tight. The tolerances seem to be really good, above and beyond what you would expect from, let's say, a mil-spec AR-15. So just the quality of holding this thing feels really good. I like the fact that all of the controls on this lower are ambi. Not only do you have the ambi charging handle, but of course you have the safety selector switch, and on this side of the rifle you can drop your magazine, drop the bolt, and on this side, of course, you got your magazine release. So I guess the only thing on this that is not ambi, of course, is the bolt release. And some lower companies do that with theirs as well. But as a right-handed shooter, it doesn't bother me. But if you're looking for a complete ambi, well, maybe you don't get it, but you get something that's pretty darn close. As I already mentioned, I love the color of this. And I know they offer this in an array of different colors. So you can kind of customize your AR color to your choosing, but man, do I like this bronze color a whole bunch. The last thing that I really like about this is that it's chambered in 223 Wylde. And some of you might be going, what in the heck is 223 Wylde? Is that a different chambering than 556 or 223? The answer is no. As you guys know, 556 and 223 are actually a little bit different. You can fire 223 out of a 556 chambered rifle, but it's not necessarily safe to fire a 556 out of a 223. The pressures and I think a couple of the other measurements are a little bit different. However, 223 Wylde is a chambering that can accept both and has really good tolerances. And I think most of the time the barrels have a 1 in 8 twist, where 556 and 223 in most applications is 1 in 7 twist. So it's supposed to be a more accurate chambering for 556 or 223. And that accuracy, I think, is going to come across in this rifle. Now let's talk about the things that I don't like. And one thing that I have grown to dislike as I've shot more and more rifles, regardless of the caliber and the barrel length, are muzzle brakes. Yeah, I am not a fan of muzzle brakes. And maybe you saw that opening footage. This thing likes to throw some flames and throw some sparks. And actually, it's a little bit distracting. And unlike other muzzle brakes, this is not a QD muzzle brake for a suppressor. It's just their in-house NEMO Arms muzzle brake. I am a huge fan of flash hiders. I like all that gas and all that stuff going downrange and mitigating that flash as much as possible. Because I can tell you, when you're looking through this awesome ACOG here, you see a bunch of sparks. And if you don't believe me, watch all the range footage of this range report and you're gonna see this thing throw some sparks. It looks really cool and I got some great still images. However, shooting it, well, it takes a little bit away from the rifle. Another thing that I'm not really a big fan of is how thick this handguard is. Now, if you've been in the world of AR-15s for long enough, you have probably seen a number of fads come and go. I know that when I first got into AR-15s, the thicker handguards with rails were the thing, the quad rails on all sides. Then we got into the key mod versus the M-LOK wars, of course, M-LOK won, and that's when handguards started getting real thin. And while at first I didn't like that, over time time, I have grown to appreciate them, because if you start to put on the rails or other accessories, that thinner rail really works well. However, NEMO has decided to go with a really thick rail. I'm telling you, this is really thick. It's not heavy. They've done a lot to lighten it up. There's tons of cuts in it. It's not a heavy rifle by any stretch of the imagination. It's just that when you hold this, especially if you're used to more modern offerings from like Geisley and other types of handguards from Daniel Defense, this is a really thick handguard. It's even thicker than I think those older quad rails. It's kind of different and kind of weird, especially if you're used to shooting the more modern ARs. Now, this is probably going to mitigate that heat pretty well. I doubt you're going to have much heat transfer from the barrel to the handguard at all because of its size and its distance from the barrel, but it's something that I noticed, and I really think that the thinner handguards are kind of the better way to go. But I'm not really sure why they went with this. I'm not saying it's bad or bad quality. I just would like to see this maybe more of a medium size or a smaller size than this really thick handguard. The last thing I want to kind of ding them on is just because it's a personal preference, and some people are going to say, Jason, you're silly. This is what makes NEMO really nice. And I've already talked about all these cutouts in this upper and lower receiver, and that is these upper and lowers are either milled or billet. And I just prefer the forged metal personally. I have just had problems in the past with billet lowers, and when they get milled out, they're not always to the same specifications. Now, I can tell you this thing feels great, and the fit and the finish of this is awesome. But for me, I just like forged metal. Now, for all I know, this is a forged receiver that they just do a lot of milling work to. However, I really think that this is a milled or billet lower and upper. It just looks like that's the way it is. And that's just a personal preference on my part. Now, the last thing that I want to note about this rifle, that's kind of a neutral comment. It's not that I dislike it or like it. It has Magpul furniture. Now, of course, Magpul is kind of the de facto furniture for AR-15s. And when you start to get into the higher end AR-15s, whether that be HK or Knight's Armament, they're all using Magpul furniture now instead of their own branded furniture. Now, I personally think that when you're starting to get into rifles that are over $2,000, in some cases $3,000 or $4,000, putting on a $30 Magpul stock, I think is honestly kind of cheap and chintzy. It doesn't make the rifle stand out. Why would you spend all this time making everything else about this gun special and unique, and then you just put on a Magpul stock and some Magpul grips? I don't know. I just kind of feel like they need to do something different to make it feel different than other offerings from other companies. But as I said, that is going to be a neutral comment. I don't think it's bad because I love Magpul furniture. I think it looks great. It's very functional and very durable. But it's a neutral comment, and I think some of you guys might agree. If you're plopping down that type of money, well, give me something more than a Magpul stock and a Magpul grip. I can get that anywhere on the cheapest of AR-15s from the most budget companies. All right, so that's the things that I like, don't like, and one neutral thing about this rifle. Let's get this thing to the range. And as always, I'm going to start out at 10 yards, just as a function check. I know that's really close, but I want to see what this thing shoots like. How's the trigger, which, by the way, this is a flat face trigger. Not a big fan of that, you guys know that, but it definitely seems crisp and has a very short reset. So everything else about this first magazine is just to make sure that this gun is functioning right, that it holds zero, that it's easy to shoot, see how it feels on my shoulder, and if I discover anything wrong with this before we go out to further distances. So one magazine, 10 yards. Let's just see how this thing performs and what I think about it. Well, obviously the gun ran fine and it's super accurate, but holy moly does this thing throw some sparks with this muzzle brake. In fact, this muzzle brake is so efficient, it was even making the targets, which were all the way back on both of the stalls next to me, move. Yeah, so this thing puts a lot of gas to the side. Now, some of you guys are going to ask, what ammo were you using? Well, throughout this range report, I always try to use a number of different ammunition types, and this one I believe I was using some M855 ammo. Nothing special, just mil-spec green tip stuff, and I was still getting that result. So I don't know why out of a 16-inch barrel it's doing that, but all ammo types, this thing sparks like crazy. And looking at that through the ACOG, it's actually a little bit scary. You're thinking, oh my gosh, is there something wrong with the gun? And I almost had to take a second and go, whoa, what's happening? And kind of fire it by looking through the red dot up here at the top. And I was like, okay, well, it's coming out of the muzzle brake. I guess there's no problem whatsoever. But the gun ran fine, low recoil. The trigger is really nice. I still don't like that flat face trigger, but it has a very crisp brake and a very short reset. So right now the sparks are the only thing that I'm not a big fan of. All right, so let's go ahead and double the distance. Let's see what happens to this group. Of course, this is only going to be at now about 20 yards, so I'm really expecting the same accuracy. And I know some people say, Jason, you don't test these rifles at far enough ranges, and I totally get it. However, when I film these, usually I'm at my range, which has a VIP section, and it's only open to us during the nighttime. So I'm there during the night when no one else is there or are on other ranges elsewhere in the facility, and I can't get on the 100-yard range. So this is just the best that I can do when I usually film these. But let's go ahead and double the distance. I'm assuming this rifle is still going to be very accurate and run just fine, but of course shoot some more sparks. So let's see what happens. And let me tell you, the trigger that they put in this thing is absolutely fantastic. I just wish that it was curved. In fact, let me show you what this trigger looks like. Let me go ahead and, of course, clear the firearm and make sure that it is safety checked and we have no ammunition in it at all. So let's come over here and I'll show you what this trigger pull looks like. Let me get it in frame here. So here is our little take-up. I mean, look how little take-up and creep that has. There's the wall. That's it. You barely see my finger move at all. Now let's take a look at this reset. That's it. I mean, it is about the shortest reset I have ever seen on a trigger on an AR-15. If it just had a little bit of a curved face or a shoe to it, it would be absolutely perfect for me. But it is flat. I understand that's kind of the new hotness right now that everyone likes and loves. And some people will say, Jason, you're missing the boat. You don't understand why. But as I said, I think this is just kind of a fad. Things come and go. I guarantee you in 5 to 6 years, people will be like, oh my gosh, a curved trigger, that's amazing because everyone uses flat triggers now. I got to go get a curved trigger. It's just the nature of the beast, but I know what I personally like. But this trigger is absolutely fantastic. All right, so the next test I'm going to do is going to bench rest it. Of course, I can only go out to 25 yards in this range, so please, once again, don't hate me for that. But now I'm going to do my best to try to take the human element out of it, and so far this rifle is exceptionally accurate, and I think it has to do with that 223 Wylde chambering. So let me put it on a bench, and let's see how well I can shoot it, even though it's only at 25 yards. And yes, all those rounds essentially went through the same hole. So the trigger is awesome. This gun is amazingly accurate. And this ACOG is awesome. If you guys have never used a Trijicon ACOG, you gotta try it. They got different models I love. All of the ACOGs, I've never had an issue with any of them. It is just a fantastic optic and it works great on this gun. So as you can see, this gun is just crazy accurate. So I know if you're gonna shoot it out to 50, 100, 200, 300 yards, it's just going to perform well for you. So accuracy is off the chart on this thing. Now, normally the next test I always do is to give my wife Becky a chance to shoot this, but this was actually a gun she was not interested in shooting simply because of those sparks that this thing is throwing. It just kind of scared her. She's like, I don't know if I want to shoot that. And so she didn't want to shoot this. But after I showed her all of the still images of me shooting it with the sparks coming out, she goes, maybe I should have shot it so I can get some footage for my Instagram and my Facebook account. And so who knows, maybe we have to go back and let her shoot a few rounds through this. But so now the next test is actually going to be the quick magazine change. And this trigger is so amazing. I think I'm going to be able to shoot this thing pretty darn fast. The one thing I am kind of curious about, and I kind of don't like, is all of the holes in the receiver that they've milled out. I know they look really fast and some people are going to call them lightning cuts, but take a look here at this magwell right here. Yeah, you got openings in there. I don't like openings in my gun. I don't want particulate to get in there and any type of ledge to obstruct maybe the insertion of a magazine. Now, I don't think it's going to be an issue, but for me, it just is a little bit of a cautionary thing. I like my guns to be enclosed, and I don't like the holes in that. Is that gonna slow me down when it comes to the magazine change? I don't think so, but let's just find out. I'll try to shoot as fast as I can and get the gun back in action, and let's see how I do. And yeah, I can shoot this thing really fast. Man, this trigger is quick. The slowest thing for me on this was getting the ACOG back on the target, just because it's slightly magnified at about 4 times. So it took me a second to kind of reacquaint that, but if I was using iron sights, I think I could have been even quicker. But speaking of being quicker, now I just gotta do a quick mag dump. I like to call this the gun porn. People just wanna see how fast you can shoot and see a gun running fast. And then I'll give you guys my final thoughts. So here is just that quick mag dump. Man, do I love shooting guns fast, and this gun can be shot fast, so I like that aspect about it. So what are my final thoughts on the NEMO Arms Battle Light 1.0? Well, there is no doubt that this thing is a top-tier, well-built, well-designed, well-thought-out AR-15. It is really exceptional. It is super accurate. It comes with an amazing trigger. I love the fit and the finish of the firearm. It is just a great rifle performance all around. Now, I have mentioned a few things that I'm not a big fan of. That Magpul furniture, I could take that or leave it. I kind of would like something a little bit more special than that. I mentioned the exceptionally wide handguard. I wish I had a thinner option. Who knows? Maybe they do. But I just review the guns as they are on the bench when I get them. So that's how I review them. You can say, hey, they offer different things. I am reviewing the gun that is on the workbench. And of course, the one thing that I don't like about this gun the most is this muzzle brake. Yeah, you get some awesome still pictures of all those sparks and flames, but honestly, when you're behind the rifle, it's a little bit distracting. Yeah, I don't like that about this. I really wish they had a flash hider, and I'm sure they offer that as well, but D, who owns this rifle, he likes muzzle brakes, and that's perfectly fine. But for my personal taste, I like flash hiders. So this gun is accurate. It is well built. It is well designed, but it has that muzzle brake. And I don't know, some of the stylings when it comes to the milled receiver and the wide handguard, I don't really like. So on my star system, how would I rate the NEMO Arms AR-15, the Battle Light 1.0? Well, when it comes to performance, it's 5 out of 5 stars. When it comes to the muzzle brake and a couple of the other aesthetic things like the wide handguard, 4 stars out of 5. So overall, I have to give it 4.5 stars out of 5. There's a few things on it that I would want to customize and change out, but hey, that's the great thing about AR-15s, right? But when you are spending this type of money, you kind of want the gun that you want right out of the box without having to change any parts. We're not talking about a Palmetto State Armory AR-15 here. We're talking about a NEMO Arms. So they probably have those different options, but as the gun sits and the options that are on it now, 4.5 stars out of 5. But it is an exceptional rifle. So what do you guys think? Do you guys like NEMO Arms? Have you ever shot one? Or have you never even heard of them before? Let me know in the comments section below. And, as always, thanks for watching.